Almost every week, I see someone ask the question, why are white men so angry?
I was tagged in Dr. Shantae's video, and as I was listening to it, she's specifically talking about white men. But as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking in terms of men and women in general. So let's look at this caption. She says, systems of privilege don't make you stronger. They make you dependent. While the marginalized develop resilience, creativity, and adaptability through struggle, privilege breeds entitlement and fragility. And when fragility meets reality, it predictably responds with rage. You can't socialize one group for survival and another group for ease and expect them to develop the same skills. The snake is eating its own tail. Now, she's highlighting white men, but we live in a patriarchy. And honestly, privilege is a continuum, and so is oppression. It's all along a scale. And so while white men might have privilege, so do other men in relation to the women in their demographic. So I'm going to speak to men in relation to women. Now, we have heard the quote. What is the quote? When a person is accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. And as we are working towards parity in this society that was built on racism and sexism, homophobia, ableism, and all of that, as we work towards parity, you see people failing and flailing. They are like, DEI this, woke this, da 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 da, because people are getting opportunities. And when certain people get opportunities, some folks believe that this is a zero-sum game. So they feel like they are entitled to a position, a certain position. And as people are clawing and climbing up ladders, they don't feel like we belong. And so since they don't feel like we belong, that's the reason why we're seeing right now the backlash against women, Black women specifically. You see the backlash against woke. You see the backlash. There's always been backlash against the LGBTQIA community. There are all kinds of things that you're seeing the backlash in because certain people don't believe that, we should be making gains in certain things. So we are about to have these discussions.
Just finished a morning run, sweating bullets, but I have to say this while I'm thinking about it. Almost every week, I see someone ask the question, why are white men so angry? And while I cannot begin to expound on the many reasons why that might be, what I can say is this: I view all social problems through a lens of societal systems, because as a sociologist, that's what I'm trained to do. And here is the design flaw in systems of privilege. When you build systems of hierarchy and privilege, when you build systems of hierarchy and privilege, the privilege is actually what weakens you. The privilege makes you weak because when you socialize an entire group of people to believe that I exist, therefore I deserve. I exist, therefore I am entitled. I exist, therefore the path of prosperity should be laid out very cleanly ahead of me, and I don't have to work hard, and I don't have to struggle, and I don't have to dig deep. I just have to receive. Meanwhile, you are socializing all other groups to survive with less resources, with less privilege. And so as a byproduct of their survival, they are becoming adaptable, resilient, creative, resourceful. They are developing the muscle for survival that they subsequently turn into systems for success and prosperity. Meanwhile, the privileged group is not developing these systems. And when they start to see the disenfranchised group becoming stronger, gaining opportunities, building systems of success, rather than say, hey, maybe we ought to be doing that too, no. Privilege doubles down. Privilege digs deep into the well of anger and grievance and says, you are the reason why I can't be successful. You are taking opportunities away from me and my children and generations. And so now, rather than develop the muscle of resilience, what I'm going to do now is start taking privileges away from you. And now I'm going to start taking your resources, and now I'm going to start burning your house down in hopes that you will get back to where I think you ought to be, which is underneath me. Not realizing that the more you do that, the more privileges you take away, the more systems of success you try to dismantle, you are only making them more creative, more adaptable, more resilient, and more resourceful. So it becomes this Ouroboros, this snake eating its own tail, because the very system that you designed to uplift yourself is actually the one that is putting you far behind, because you never develop the muscle, the work ethic, the resilience, the innovation, and the creativity as the disenfranchised group.
This is a conversation that I have had several times on my pages. More men in their prime working years are neither working nor looking for jobs. And as I was reading through these articles, what it boiled down to, and these are men that are like between the ages of 25 and 54, 7 million of these prime age men have fallen out of the workforce. And when asked why, it's because just having a job, simply having a job, wasn't guaranteeing them a wife and kids. They weren't hitting the milestones simply for showing up with a peen and a job. When I was reading these articles, and there were several written within the last 2 years, many men said that they dropped out simply because they didn't have the social standing. And they thought that simply having a job was going to get them the wife, the house, and the kids. And it wasn't. And we've talked about this. The mom to wife pipeline is drying up. And with that being stated, these men are having to figure out how to adult by themselves. Where women and girls are socialized to be caretakers, like we're socialized to know how to cook and clean and caretake and all of that, they haven't been. And so that's where she was saying systems of privilege don't make you stronger, they make you dependent. And many of these people were dependent on a woman in their life. That's the reason why they are failing, flailing, and flustered, because women are pulling back and saying, I'm going to pour into myself. More women are going to college than men. Women, if they are child free, are moving up the ladder quicker, and these men are falling out. And so since these systems of oppression had put them up on this pedestal and they weren't hungry, they didn't have to compete, it made them dependent on that system. And so women who were more creative and resilient simply because we had to be are making gains quicker. And that's the reason why you see this backlash and trying to pull us back into these positions so that the men can get back where they are feeling like they should be. The male loneliness epidemic is a topic that has been around or floating around for a while as well. And the reason why this is not hitting women as hard is because women are better at creating community, being vulnerable, having friends, learning and understanding how to create mom groups and play dates and all of that, where men typically lean on their romantic partners for all of that. A Swiss Army wife, if you would, they tend to lean on a woman to be the admin for the home, the kin keeper, the man keeper, the one that they emotionally dump everything on, the one that knows how to keep the dates and appointments. And as women pull back from that role because women are focusing on themselves, these dudes are not understanding how to adapt. And since they are not adapting, they are growing lonely. And too many of them didn't regard women or don't regard women as far as our full humanity. And so they don't see us as human. They don't see us as worthy of friendship. They see us as a wife appliance or girlfriend appliance, as a bank maid, as an incubator, and that's it. And since we're having these conversations and women are like asserting their autonomy and humanity, it's making it so that there's a huge divide where it comes to men and women, and they haven't learned how to adapt and treat us with the humanity, respect, and support that we're asking for. And so that is one of the main reasons I believe that they are lonely, and the whole mom to wife pipeline that is drying up. We're seeing this time and time again, especially as women are, they're getting in relationships, they're getting married, but then once they see that the dudes don't want to reciprocate, they don't want to do the housework, they don't want to participate with the kids, the women are pulling back, and that's also making these people lonely. We've talked about invisible labor. We've talked about unpaid labor. We talk about that. We've talked about the phenomenon of being a married single mother. And what this is doing, it's making women become better at multitasking and doing things herself. So after it clicks in her head that yes, she has a man in the home, but she's literally carrying the load, it makes it easier to walk away. So Olivia Howe says, invisible labor is divorce prep. I saw that and I was like, OMG, that hits. Invisible labor is divorce prep. She's already parenting solo, managing the house solo, living in her head solo. The paperwork just makes it official. Emma Jewell says, people have always offered me pity post-divorce for having to do everything on my own. The reality was that my life got easier. I was already doing everything alone, but now I have one less person to be responsible to make sure is happy, fed, has clean clothes, has all his needs taken care of, yada yada. KMH says, and the paperwork also makes it easier. The man-child who creates extra work and who thwarts decision-making is no longer a factor. And then Cute Torty Cat says, people said, how will you manage without him? Like, what the F you think I've been doing for 17 years? I could have won a freaking Oscar award because no one knew what was going on in my marriage. And Sam says, I was scared when I got divorced. How was I going to do it all by myself? And then I realized I had been doing it solo. This is the reason why women glow up and why the dudes fail and flail after divorce, because that parasite that was attached, that was sucking her life force, that she had to pour into this adult that couldn't do anything on his own. Now that she can pour that into herself, it makes her life easier. It takes her stress level down. It takes her workload down, and she has the opportunity to rest. That whole resting situation. So this is the reason why we'll continue to talk about this. The fact that they have been dependent on a system makes them fail and flail once that system is erased. And we have been working diligently to have some parity and equity and equality and all of these words. But as it becomes more and more clear that privilege has handicapped them, that is the reason why they keep trying to shame women into having babies, shame women into getting married, because women are saying, you know what? Do I really need this? And if the answer is no, then they're seeing that, you know what? I can do this by myself and survive and thrive. But you'll also see at the same time, men are the ones that are clamoring for the wife and the children now, the home now. So it has flip-flopped. We're going to see where all of this lands, but that Dr. Shantae's video had me thinking of all of this. I even was taking notes. That's the reason. But all of this we have talked about before. Let me know your thoughts, though.